This video is sponsored by Mark 7 Equipment, shaping the future of all things car wash. Visit mark7.net for more information.
Welcome back to Unscripted, Carwash.com's video interview series that connects you with market leaders. Joining me today on Unscripted, happy to welcome in Clayton Clark, President and Chief Operating Officer, and Henry Shine, Chief Financial Officer at WhiteWater Express Car Wash. Gentlemen, it's great to see you both again, and thanks for doing the video interview with me.
Yeah, thanks, Rich, and enjoy being back on and talking a little bit about WhiteWater and our great industry.
Absolutely. So, WhiteWater has announced several press releases here on Carwash.com that we've posted, and I wanted to catch up on some of those news announcements. One of the more significant ones we've seen over the past few months happened in late 2021. So I understand that WhiteWater entered into a partnership agreement with Freeman Spogli Company in late 2021. Can you please tell us a little bit more about this partnership, Clayton?
Yeah, look, I think that 2021 was a banner year for WhiteWater, not only with the opening of new sites for us, but as well as acquisition opportunities that became part of the WhiteWater family. We got lucky about 3 years ago when we introduced our partners at Skynight Capital. Really saw what we did at WhiteWater, really liked the direction of WhiteWater, invested in us, and really got behind us. And man, what a great ride. Very rarely does lightning strike twice, in the sense of you get great partners like Skynight. We recognize and they recognize what we were building here is very special. This space, this industry is very special and growing very rapidly. But I think it boiled down to the executive team, the operational team that we have built here at WhiteWater. We kind of felt like, hey, we're ready to expand and grow. We've got several departments. We've got a human resource department. We've got a branding department. We've got an accounting team. We've got a facilities team. And so we were really we're in place right now for really expanded growth. So that being said, it was like, okay, what's our next step? How do we enhance and continue to be an industry leader, in this space? And so as we kind of huddled up, myself, Steve, and Henry huddled up, and Jordan at Skynight, what's our next step for WhiteWater? And it was pretty natural that we wanted to find a private equity partner with a lot of firepower. And forget about the financial side of it. There's a lot of money, as we all know, getting thrown out there from the private equity groups investing in, we'll call it the car wash space, whether it be smaller platforms or bigger ones. But for us, it wasn't just about getting money and just going fast. It's about our foundation, our culture, about building a great company. And when Steve and I founded the company 6 years ago, that's really what we wanted to do, and never, has gone beyond our wildest dreams. But as it relates to Freeman Spogli, lightning struck twice. Holy cow, going through the process, and they are so aligned. They're easy to work with. And, Skynight was in the trenches with us. They were, hey, what do you guys need? What do you guys need? Never question, like, why are you going here? Why do you want to do this? And man, and trust me, it was a lot of long sleepless nights for Steve, Henry, and I, and our entire team. But man, finding the right partner in Freeman Spogli, we nailed it. And they are in the trenches with us, fully supportive. It's interesting having the opportunity to reach out to some of their other partners and some of their investments that they've made. A lot of brands that a lot of people probably know of: Floor and Decor, Boot Barn, Batteries Plus, Planet Fitness. Having access and resources to those people that run those companies, because now you're part of the Freeman Spogli family, is just tremendous. And so, look, is our goal, we want to be, 500 car washes? No, we want to have however many car washes it's going to be. Henry and I get asked that question quite often, but for us, it's a matter, we just want to build a great company. We're not here to saturate. We're not here to build 500 feet down the street from somebody. A lot of that's going on in our industry too. And I think that we're going to be smart. We're going to be very strategic. And so there's a lot of things that came about of this relationship. that money had nothing to do with. It was about how do we continue the path that we've started and continue to grow WhiteWater.
Yeah, and I'd probably add one more thing about it. I think the biggest differentiator with Freeman and this partnership is that Skyknight came along with us, and the whole partnership and transaction was contingent on everybody continuing to remain invested in WhiteWater. So I think that vote of confidence from our original partners, our founders, and then Freeman Spogli all headed towards the next phase of growth for WhiteWater is quite different, because a lot of times in these transactions, you see people sell outright, investors punch out completely, founders and owners punch out completely. And that's really not what this transaction was. This was a investment for growth as we take WhiteWater from 60 locations to whatever that number may be, Clayton.
Yeah, we don't give out any kind of agendas yet or secrets.
I don't blame you, and you certainly have mentioned that before on previous interviews, wanting to have controlled growth and not necessarily hit a certain number. One of my follow-up questions was Skyknight Capital's continued involvement in WhiteWater, which you both just certainly mentioned. But what about Freeman Spogli? Do they have any other interest in the car wash industry, or is WhiteWater their sole focus at this point in car washing?
They are faithfully married to WhiteWater.
Okay.
So look, it's you either go all in with somebody or you don't. I think just based on our relationships and our growth and our trajectory, again, the cultures align. We met their entire partnership and board, back in late November, and to be able to speak to not only the founders of Freeman Spogli, but to their entire portfolio and their partners, and they all were thumbs up on WhiteWater. Man, what a vote of confidence. So no, they are fully in on WhiteWater. The investment is us, this management team that we have put together, that's very young, very smart, and man, full of energy, I think is very attractive to them as well. And as Henry brought up, Skyknight and very rarely, Rich, will you find a situation where, Skyknight was like, hey man, we're in, or we're not going to do it. So it was everything aligned, and it has been just fantastic.
All right, great to have that exclusivity as well. So, in the short term, and certainly Clayton, you mentioned having access to these other larger proven brands and their teams, not a bad team to bounce these ideas that you're having as a growing company off of. But in the short term, how does Freeman Spogli really open up opportunities for the chain with a partnership in place in the short term?
Yeah, great question. We've not only we reformed the board and reshaped what the board looked like, and brought on valuable team members from Freeman Spogli. Also brought on a couple of board members that have built up big companies that are part of our board now. And what they have done and developed. I don't want to get into kind of too much of the detail or the minutia of that, but the other part of it that's beautiful is the real estate aspect of it, where they have access to put us on really knowing the right people. And when you've got the firepower and the brand recognition of a private equity group like Freeman Spogli, developers kind of sit up and pay attention a little bit, like, oh, okay, well, a Costco's going here and this and this and this, man, let's carve out a spot for a WhiteWater as an example. Again, we've got some other cool things in the works, but from the real estate perspective, of getting a WhiteWater, or let's call it a car wash, in an A-prime space where never before did car washes they get frowned upon. When you got big brother like Freeman Spogli behind you, it's a little bit different. And so I would speak to that, and I know Henry's got some comments on this as well.
Yeah, I think Clayton brings up a good point on the real estate access side. It's really us having the ability to tap into a national brand that Freeman either owns today or has owned before, i.e. a Petco, Floor & Decor, Boot Barn, and some of the other large retailers who are typically big tenants of the developments where car washes want to be. the ability to kind of have that direct access to those sort of real estate developers and owners is a differentiated one. And I think the other opportunities and frankly, what I've experienced so far over the past several months working with Freeman is they've experienced all the things that we've experienced before in terms of growth and growing companies from a regional company to more of a national. And so they have the playbook, they have the experience, and are able to provide support and guidance where otherwise, Clayton, Steve, and Henry may have had to figure things out for themselves on the fly. And just having that sort of playbook, guidance, and resources and other companies to lean on as we enter the next phase of our growth is super valuable. And so it creates an opportunity, specific to your question, for us to grow into that national brand with 100+ locations and really continue to deliver the same level of service at all of those 100 locations that we're so focused on.
Yeah, and having access to this prime real estate of these shopping centers certainly doesn't help boost the image of the overall car wash industry as well, which is what we're hearing across the board from many chains. So that's great. So in the press release, or one of the press releases that we posted on Carwash.com, Henry, WhiteWater described its growth strategy as quote unquote land and expand, right? So can you expand on this growth strategy a little bit?
Yeah. So you can look back to how we left being strictly a Texas and Oklahoma company in 2020 to now having 65 locations pretty much evenly dispersed between the Midwest and the Southwest. And we entered the Midwest by acquiring a business that had locations in Ohio and Kentucky. And then we partnered with that group to continue to build out their real estate pipeline in both Ohio and Michigan. We then identified that actually the markets between where we were located in kind of the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area and Central Michigan were all pretty compelling from a car wash standpoint. And so we started filling in the gaps between Central Michigan and Southwestern Ohio. So we basically landed in Ohio and Kentucky, identified other areas of expansion that were underpenetrated, and now we're really focused on filling those areas in and then expanding kind of adjacent to those markets as well. And Rich, I think the reason for that is it doesn't do us a lot of good to go to a market, have 3 locations, and be 4 hours away from any other WhiteWater Expresses. But it does make sense for us to identify high quality markets that are all within a certain radius of each other. And then we can fill in locations between, call it the northernmost and the southernmost location in that market. So we're really optimistic about our ability to grow there. And I think, you'll see us in the future probably add another region through an acquisition, and then we'll continue to expand there with both acquisitions and greenfield locations.
Interesting. Care to break any news here on Unscripted, or we want to save that for a future press release?
Nah, nothing just yet.
Okay, understood.
Rich, hey, listen, we appreciate you asking, and we want you to continue to prod a little bit. You wouldn't be doing your job if you didn't. But man, we really like the coast, so we'll just leave you with that. A little bit of a tease there. And the other thing I think that's important to this question, as we talk about our land and expand strategy, we have probably passed on as many car washes as we have today, deals in totality, because they didn't fit the WhiteWater model or the culture, or it just wasn't an express exterior, et cetera. So I say that part of it because it goes back to our growth strategy and what we want. We know what we want. We are very disciplined in our approach. We're not trying to get to 300 car washes as fast as we can. And I think that's one of the things that Freeman really liked about us, is that we're just not throwing up a bunch of stuff or building a bunch of car washes next door to people or right around the corner for somebody, or just buying to buy that really doesn't fit the WhiteWater model. And look, they're pretty sharp. And as Henry said a minute ago, they've built a lot of companies up. I think that was one of the other things that they were really excited about with WhiteWater. We're disciplined. And we're going to stay that way. We're focused on our business. This is truly a founder and an executive management team led business. Myself, Henry, Steve, Doug Cookston, Brad, Zach Hetzel, a lot of our VPs, we're in our stores. Greg Murray, who's our EVP of real estate, he's in our stores. He's overseeing construction. We don't have anybody working out of an office. And you want to talk about competitive advantage. That's why I think that, number one, we're very bullish on WhiteWater, but two, one of the other many factors I'd like to think about what attracted Freeman Spogli to us is because we're going to be in the trenches with our team. We're going to get soap in our hair, as we like to say, and that's going to be our differentiator from us and our competitors.
Sounds good. Well, Henry, had the fortune of interviewing you for our March cover story on site selection and design, and you mentioned a little bit more about market densification and having several sites in one area. You certainly touched on that with the land and expand question I asked you there, but why is that so important to today's car wash operators? Why not just have 3 sites in one state, even if the bulk of your sites are in another state? Why is it so important to not only the future of the chain, but also to its customers to have this market densification?
Yeah, well, Rich, I think it's a good question, and there's a couple different levels to it. On the most simple level, this business has really evolved into a membership focused business, and the ability to offer your customers the same quality of service at multiple locations in a region is of value. I would not say that the customer has adopted that yet. It's definitely the minority of our customers and some of our competitors' customers that wash at 5 different WhiteWaters or whatever brand it may be. But that brand awareness is starting to pick up. And I think people are starting to see that the car wash is similar to a McDonald's or a Starbucks or wherever you get that same experience every time that you go. And they recognize that brand and then want to go to that location for that same experience. So that's number one on why it's important to have multiple locations in a market that obviously meet your criteria for a successful car wash. But I think the second part, and the part that's more important, is the employee side. And I'm sure Clayton can talk more about this, but at a high level, if we have 3 or 5 different brands or do things completely differently in the Midwest versus the Southwest, there's no continuity. And you hear a lot of terms like they, we, them, us, and that's not how we want to run our business. So the ideal model for us is that we can pick somebody up out of Dallas, Texas, send them up to Battle Creek, Michigan, and they'll know exactly how the tunnel works, how to greet the customer, how to process the car, and then how to have that conversation in the parking lot with that customer to make sure they were satisfied with that wash. And I think that having everything done the same way and having that brand awareness and also having multiple locations and markets all kind of comes back to that.
All right, sounds good. Well, I think you mentioned earlier one of Freeman's brands is Planet Fitness, which certainly has some experience with growing memberships and at these different locations. So I'm sure that's something you'll be asking them about. But to wrap it up, Clayton, one last question. I know you like to play it close to the vest, but is there anything we can expect from WhiteWater for the remainder of this year as it really enters its next phase of growth?
I would say a couple of things as we're going down this path. Number one, we're super excited about our greenfield pipeline. As you and everybody else in this industry knows, building a great greenfield pipeline is very key, a key component to success. Site identification, of buying the right sites, and not buy just to build. That's a term we talk about internally quite a bit with our real estate team. But I would say our greenfield pipeline we're excited about. We've got a lot of cool acquisition opportunities on the horizon, if you will. And we're super excited about the culture of some of these bigger car wash chains. Is going to tuck right into WhiteWater extremely well. So we're excited about that. Look, I think that some of the stuff that we're doing on a go forward basis, as everybody has struggled throughout the country with staffing, with some of the challenges that have faced us all, I think that, we're doing some unique recruiting processes. We're putting a robust training programs in place, further educational, we'll call it internal WhiteWater stuff that we're doing to not only recruit employees, but I think we could all agree the retention of the employee and creating a better experience for the employee through washing cars. So I would say that's for us on the horizon, and just to continue to do what we're doing now, and not get too high, not get too low. And I think, Rich, what's very important too is creating a dialogue with your competitors. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I think that's one of the things that we've all internally discussed about, hey, how can we all win? And I think we can all win by being smart, communicating, and I think we can all agree, we've seen it before. Nobody wins when you're building one and then somebody says, I'm going to just go build right here. That's not a win situation for anybody. So I think as we're expanding, being smart, good operators, we have a responsibility to this industry to do that. And I think those of us who've been washing cars way before we got sexy with private equity understand what I'm saying. And I think the more we can collaborate and talk and just kind of, let's all win, I guess is what I would say. And so we're focused on that part of our business too.
All right, sounds good. Such an important point. Glad to see we're bringing sexy back into the industry. You heard it first here on Unscripted, WhiteWater Express Car Wash, possibly coming to a coast near you. It was great seeing you both again on this video interview. It was great seeing you in person at the recent SCWA show there in Fort Worth, Texas. Again, congratulations on this new partnership and all the news that your company's been announcing over the past few months. And again, thanks for doing the video interview with me.
Thanks, Rich.
Thanks a lot, Rich.
This video is sponsored by Mark 7 Equipment, shaping the future of all things car wash. Visit mark7.net for more information.